The debate rages on regarding conspiracy theorist and freshman Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been seen in videos advocating for the execution of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for alleged treason, and who has put out conspiracy theories regarding mass shootings that have led to dozens of children getting shot and killed on campuses across the country. Now, state Republicans are worried that Marjorie Taylor Greene and her behavior will be a liability when it comes to Republican state lawmakers in the state of Georgia, which is where she's from. State Republicans now worry Greene will emerge as the face of the GOP, tainting the entire ticket with a stamp of conspiracy theory and extremism in the run up to the 2022 midterms. In fact, one GOP election administrator named Gabriel Sterling told Politico, quote, "If you have any common sense, you know she's an anchor on the party. She is weighing us down." He also says some people are saying maybe House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will throw her out of Congress. The Democrats would never throw her out. They want her to be the definition of what a Republican is. They're gonna give her every opportunity to speak and be heard and look crazy, like what came out Wednesday, the Jewish space laser to start fires, I mean. And then he says, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you go. Now, I don't know if I agree with Gabriel Sterling and his interpretation of what the congressional Democrats want. What I do know is that there's a growing effort to, in the very least, get Marjorie Taylor Greene off of her committee assignment. She is assigned to the Education Committee, and considering the fact that she has referred to school shootings and massacres as false flag operations to take her guns away, probably not the best person to be on that kind of committee. But aside from that, there's a growing effort to get her kicked out of Congress. And I actually think that's a terrible strategy. And I know, Cenk, you agree with that as well. So do you want to jump in?
Yeah, but we're gonna ask you guys too, because a lot of folks on the left think that she should be kicked out. Because is she dangerous? Of course she is. But there's a reason why I think that that's the wrong route to go. So first of all, we got to tell you about the Jewish space laser, okay? So she had a theory that she talked about all the way back in 2018. So this is not like from decades ago. That the Camp Fire, the one in Northern California, that was so devastating to California. It was not because of climate change. It was not because the power companies were greedy and wouldn't bury their wouldn't bury their phone lines, and then they fall, and then they cause forest fires. All those rational explanations about how a fire starts and what are the weather conditions that precipitate a fire. No, none of that is true. It turns out the Rothschilds, this is a very old anti-Semitic trope about them, conspiracy theory about them, built a space laser that used its solar panels to direct a beam onto the forest and start the fire so that they could make money through X, Y, and Z. If you got a space laser or sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads, there are better ways to use them to make money than to start a catastrophic fire that actually hurts the economy and people make less money. Anyway, look, is she nuts? Absolutely, 100% lunatic. She belongs in an insane asylum way more than she belongs in Congress. Nonetheless, I think she should stay in Congress. Why? Because that's what the voters voted for. The one thing that the media, Republican leaders, and even the Democratic Party is missing is they keep thinking, oh, she's this wild aberration. And so Democrats think like, oh, even though she's like a tiny portion of the Republican Party, we'll try to make it seem like she's the Republican Party. And the Republicans are like, oh, that's so not fair. She's a tiny portion. And the media is like, now remember everybody, she's a tiny portion. No, she's not. She won easily. I guarantee you, even after people know about the Jewish layers and the executions and all that stuff, she'll win re-election super easy because she's not a tiny minority of the Republican Party. She's the majority of the Republican Party, the Republican voters. And nobody else will tell you that. It's the reality. They've lost their minds. And part of the reason is almost everyone in the media is elitist. They never talk to Trump voters. We talk to Trump voters all the time. Every time they say completely insane things over and over again. You turn off the cameras. Walter Masterson, a guest we had on, and a guy we've used at some of these MAGA rallies. He says, you turn off the cameras, and if you dress like a MAGA guy, they will immediately go to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So it's not the lunatic fringe, it's the lunatic majority of Republican voters. It is. And that's why she won easily.
So yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And so part of the reason why I think it's a terrible idea to kick her out is you have to be consistent. If you believe in our democratic process and you cited our democratic process in making the case for why Trump can't just steal the general election and stay in the White House, you can't advocate to throw out the results of a congressional race that you didn't like. And I don't like the results, but it's true, she won by a wide margin. And what ends up happening by, let's say they succeed in getting her out of Congress, right? Throwing her out, not through beating her in elections, but like literally just finding a way to like get her kicked out of Congress. That makes her a victim. And that gives the right wing in this country a sound argument about how Democrats don't believe in democracy. So if you're gonna beat her, if you're gonna get her out of Congress, you need to do it electorally. And I think I totally agree with getting her off of these committee assignments. That happened with Steve King after he put out racist remarks, and it was abundantly clear that he was a white supremacist. In fact, he argued that there was nothing wrong with nationalism. I mean, so getting him stripped of his committee assignments made a lot of sense. But you can't just kick someone out of Congress because you dislike them or because you didn't like the results of an election. And you're absolutely right, Cenk. I mean, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, helped her win. He helped her win. And right now, he's refusing to hold her accountable for all of these devastating videos and statements that have emerged because he's afraid of Trump's base, the Republican voters, people who absolutely support and believe in the insane conspiracy theories that Marjorie Taylor Greene is putting out there. And so getting her out of Congress by kicking her out doesn't in any way deal with the root issue here. That root issue will continue to fester, right? Yeah. You can't just brush it under a rug and hope that it's gonna go away, it's not.
So look, the calls for violence, of course, makes this a tougher issue. And that's why we did a poll on it. So go to tyt.com/polls/MTG, that's her initials, to vote on this, on whether she should be expelled or not. I agree with Anna, clearly off the committee, and that's very important. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. And I think that I would get her on the record and say, look, if you have any more calls for actual physical violence against anyone, it doesn't just have to be a member of Congress. Yeah, then we need to have a conversation about you being expelled. Because can we have a person in Congress going, I disagree with the Congress lady from Tennessee and I'd like her executed? No, we can't have that. Even if the people of your district voted for you, we just can't have it. That's insanity. That's not a democracy, right? But she has not done that while she's in office, as far as I know. Okay, she did it earlier, and so yes, Anna's totally right. The right wing already has toxic victimhood. They're like, oh my God, they won't let us oppress everyone else. We're such victims. They won't let us talk about the Jewish space laser. We're such victims, right? And that'll only make it worse, and then it'll drive it towards even more violence, not less violence, in my opinion. But one other thing that I wanted to mention that's driving me crazy about the story is the nonstop references the media does to she's the AOC of the Republican Party. No, you buffoons. You have to at least, no, you can't even begin to make any kind of analogy like that. So what is AOC? Does AOC also represent the actual Democratic voters? Yes, she does. So what is it that she wants? She wants free healthcare for Americans. She wants to fight climate change, and she wants higher wages. First of all, that's actually the majority of the country who wants that. And those are all excellent, real policy issues. Then you turn around and you go, yeah, well, I'm gonna compare her to someone who says that Nancy Pelosi should be executed. I think the media in this country is nearly hopeless. Okay, now back to the the committee issue. So why is Kevin McCarthy not taking her off the committee? Because he's afraid of the Trump base. Everybody knows that and they will acknowledge that. But they don't finish the thought. Who is the Trump base? It's the Republican voters. It's the base and the majority of Republican voters. If she was a fringe minority among Republicans, then McCarthy would easily take her off the committee, obviously. Are you kidding me? They're obsessed with the club. You've got to protect the club. And she's threatening the club with violence. And he still won't take her off the committee. You know why? Because he knows that she actually represents the majority of Republican voters.
Yeah, absolutely. One final thing that I just wanted to quickly add, there were some accusations by Democratic lawmakers that Marjorie Taylor Greene was giving tours, the day before the Capitol Hill riot took place. And there are some who suspect that she might have coordinated some of this. I don't know if any of that's true. No one knows if any of that's true. But my point is, if there is an investigation into it indicating that there's any evidence that she helped to provoke this or organize what happened in the Capitol, then she absolutely should be forced to resign, period. Because what happened in the Capitol is beyond unacceptable. Several people died that day, including a Capitol police officer, an additional Capitol Police officer who committed suicide after the riots took place. So I would like an actual investigation into her alleged involvement into that. And if we have evidence of that, then maybe my opinion on this might change. But for now, we don't know. So I want to be clear.
And I'll give you one more from our members. English teacher 1984 wrote in, I agree, Cenk, but she must be expelled if she carries a loaded firearm on the floor of Congress. So don't get me wrong, like I said, any further actions towards violence, and it's gonna force everyone's hand into expelling her. But still, the Republicans won't wanna do that because they're worried that their voters will be mad because they love her insane conspiracy theories, and the calls to violence. She called Trump the other day, and Trump was thrilled and thinks she's one of the stars of the party. And I got news for you: Trump is way more popular than Kevin McCarthy within the Republican Party. So that crazy is the majority within the GOP.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.